Hey, how's it going out there, YouTube? Everybody else, gun psychiatrist here. Recently had someone contacting me regarding the Mossberg Maverick 88 shotgun. A few years back, we did a gun how-to and went into a really in-depth disassembly and reassembly of the trigger pack. Had one of my channel subscribers contact me, and they're having issues with their Maverick not failing to fire, not firing the rounds. So this video is going to mainly cycle around the bolt, and we're going to really focus on the bolt assembly, lockup, firing pin, how everything works. I'm going to get my calipers out, do some measurements and stuff, and that way this is a more or less a kind of a functional diagnosis. If it were to come to me as a gunsmith, what I'm going to go through to narrow down the issue and find out what the problem is. Biggest thing I would suggest first to diagnose this issue, which a failure to fire can be a number of things. It could be in the bolt itself, or it could just boil down to ammunition. If you might be using a hand load or maybe some old loads, what I would suggest to do, go to the store, buy some cheap, buy a box of 25 cheap, $5 from Walmart or whatever your local ammo store is where you're at, and try those rounds out. If it's still failing to fire, then that means there's something going on in the gun. But a lot of times it can boil down to ammo or just a cleaning. A lot of people can't get their guns to work, and what boils down to is their gun's dirty. And I would say probably 60% to 70% of gunsmith work deals with a dirty gun, and just cleaning your gun can fix a lot of problems. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this bolt, and we're going to take some measurements. So before we start working on any gun, I think the best thing to do is always ensure that it is unloaded and that it's safe. So I've taken all the rounds out of it. On the Maverick 88, there is a little shell catch lever right here, and you can just depress that and it'll eject the rounds out one at a time. But as far as the bolt goes, I always like to stick my finger in there and verify that there's no ammunition in the chamber. Looking probably works just as well, but I always just like the finger check. It works pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and get it disassembled, and we'll be right back. So before you disassemble your bolt, first thing you want to check is firing pin protrusion. Which is how much of the firing pin is actually sticking out when it's fired. And this is a functioning bolt, so we can use this for a test case. As far as how you want to measure your gun, all I did here is I stuck something down in there. This way I can compress the, this is like my extra hand. So I just run it down on my bench. That way I can compress this while I take the measurement. So what we're going to do, go ahead and push that back. And as you can see, you get a little protrusion out of there. And take your calipers right here. All right, while it's compressed. And you like to use the back part of the calipers here. I would just take the measurement. That's that, but this is all I had. I have a compression tool for this, but it's not on me at the moment. All right, so right now we got 0.87 millimeters. And to those of you standard US version people out there that like using inches, I think millimeters have a little bit tighter tolerances. So I kind of just prefer using millimeter for gun stuff. Got 9.5 on that one. Okay, so everything's done here. We're pretty much going to get it apart as far as we're going to get it apart. I'm not going to go any further. I'm about to go to work anyway. So what I want to do is start checking the diameters, the lengths, make sure that everything's all on the money. Your firing pin length should come out to 7.790. 77.89. Sorry, I read that wrong. 7.90, 0.89. So that's pretty good. You know, you're not going to see any longer than that, but any shorter than that, you know, I think if you got below, if we said 1.15 millimeters, so if it was like 76.83, you'd be having some problems. You need a new firing pin. You should still have at least that 1 millimeter protrusion coming out of there. So if as long as it's over like 7.65, seven point seven, I think you'd be all right. I mean, this is saying 7.89. If we minus 0.15 off of that, you know, you're going to be looking at 7.74. So that's good to keep in mind. Your recoil spring, another consideration. This thing's a little jacked up, but that's all right. They sit in there weird. Your overall length on that should be 13. I try not to compress these when I measure them. Some springs you actually have to compress to actually get an accurate engineering measurement out of it, but 13.86, 13.85. Springs have a really forgiving tolerance. You know, you're running 3.77 as your pitch. Then your overall thickness, looking about 1.34. That's a pretty dang thick spring. Then overall width, 8.89, 8.90, somewhere in there. That's probably pretty good. Checking in the center, 8.66. It's a little wide down here at these ends, 8.81. I probably need to replace that here soon. Thing's looking a little jacked up. 9.07 overall. So you see it varies. Extractor spring, I wanted to pull it out and measure it and see how it's looking. Just get it to where it's just barely in there. So you're running 5.47. It's pretty decent. This is running like a 1.24 pitch. So that's that pretty much with the bolt. I would probably check this as well to make sure your firing pin's actually getting through. It sounds like if you've had a failure to fire, it's fired in the past, but it should be about 2.3 if I remember correctly. 2.10. There you go. Check this. I don't think my grabbers are fat enough to get in there because that's saying 2.55 thickness. And see if I can get this on here right. Now, I'm not getting in the hole. These calipers just ain't doing it. Obviously, just so you can see, that's not an optical illusion. That firing pin goes straight through there. So that would have to be bigger. It's just these things are so fat on the end of it, I can't really get them in there. These aren't the best pair. But, there you go. Bolt overall, just in case, 76.52, 76.51. It's probably acceptable. 76.6, okay. And here you're getting 11.23. Not going to worry about measuring that slot. Here on the back of that hole right there, you're getting 6.43. So, I mean, everything is pretty well on par. To 2.60 should be your overall face width. You know, on shells, you're looking at about 2.31, so a little bit oversized is just right. Only other thing I would check is down here in the chamber. Man, this thing needs cleaned. I think I got Cerakote on it. So I would just inspect the chamber and look at it. You know, make sure you got your extractor cuts are going to be 5.39, 5.4. This one's going to be 5. That other extractor, I believe, is a little smaller than the other one. 5.3, yeah. We really have no way to check the headspace on this. I don't have headspace gauges, but 99.99999% of the time, your gun's going to be in headspace. But let's see if we can see the taper in there. Most shotguns have a taper towards the end of the chamber. Ooh, that's dirty. Yeah, our taper looks good. Got a nice taper. Sorry. There we go. So you got a pretty decent taper. This shouldn't really be causing any issues. You know, you have your lockup like this, and it should be locking into battery all the way. That's one of the sole reasons for that drop right there. So if we measure this drop, .81, you're gonna have about the same 2. Now this is off a little bit. Let's see if I can get this back. Sorry guys, trying to 2.66. So you got a little bit of a taper in there, but you got to account for the lip of that shell sitting over that too. So, you know, that's really all you can do at this point. The main concern would be this the firing pin contributing to a failure to fire. But 9 times out of 10 it's ammo, and as you can see, this gun's just been sitting, and a lot of times just sitting in storage and collecting dust can cause that issue. But yeah, I would check the main components that I'm more or less concerned about for your gun is the length of this firing pin. And again, I'll give you those numbers. I wish I had an engineering sheet from Mossberg so I can QA this, but 77.90 is acceptable. I think if you drop below, I would say, let me figure this out here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to try to pull a measurement from a spent primer with this firing pin indentation, and then a regular primer. I just wouldn't do it too hard, folks. Hard to finagle this up here and get it straight. So let's just say that's 8.5 for time's sake. And we have 77.9 on that, and then we have 7.95 or 8, 7.95 on that. So if I get my calculator out here and do some basic math, let me pop up my calculator here, my tablet. So we're going to go 8.5 minus 7.97 minus, which 7.97 is the primer, the fired primer height. Where'd the primer go? Oh, this is in my caliper. Yeah, 7.97 minus the 7.9. 0.87 millimeters would be the tolerance that this is going to protrude, which is pretty close. That's actually the measurement we were picking up from this. So, okay, a little bit excessive protrusion. Let's just say 0.87 is going to hit. What's going to strike that primer? I probably wouldn't allow anything less than 0.87. And that number probably is going to vary, but you know, you want to make sure you have a good hit. Out of this, we were reading anywhere from 1 to 1.15 millimeters, and just measuring the firing pin, taking into account the thickness of this primer here, you know, we're getting 0.87. So honestly, I would probably leave your tolerance from, so if it's 77.9, it's clear. How do I clear this thing? My gosh. So 77, yeah, see? How do I clear it? Okay, there's that. All right, so 77.89, or we can say 90.90 minus 1.15. So 76.75, and then we would have 0.87. .03. So I would say if this firing pin is shorter than 77.03 millimeters, you need a new firing pin. Again, those of you real hardcore Mossberg nuts or any QA people out there for Mossberg, don't slaughter me in the comments here, because you know, it'd be nice if you guys give up your engineering sheets. But that's what I would run, and now I'm really pushing on this now, but 7.88. So I would say that if you go under 7.03, I would say time to get a new firing pin. So there's one more thing I wanted to cover when diagnosing a failure to fire issue. Is the most obvious and basic thing after checking your ammo, probably before checking your bolt, is the trigger pack. You want to make sure that when you pull the trigger pack, that hammer is actually going forward. There's a way to test this. Let me see if I can get this in just right. So let me get my flashlight so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So right there, that little shiny thing, looks like a rectangle, is the sear. So when this comes back, see it moved? It's sitting upright. So part of taking a gun apart and putting it back together, I'm going to go ahead and let this forward. All right, so it goes forward. We want to do kind of a function check. So let's see if I can do this. Bring it back. See, it's not going forward because when the bolt goes back, this lever right here actually clicks down. So when that clicks down, that little sear is going to slip into that slot like that. Then the bolt comes back. You hear that click? It just slipped over that. And the bolt comes back. And then when you let off it, you should hear this click. Just like that. Boom. That's how you know you have a functioning trigger pack. So for some of you guys, if you didn't get back together right, probably now would be the time to go back to that other video I shot and look through and make sure you have everything done properly. But you want to make sure that you get full spring out of this, because obviously if your hammer's not going forward, it's not going to hit the firing pin. So I wanted to make sure I included that in this video. That's much better. So you're going to have this retainer that's going to sit back on that right there. And that's this little retainer pin. You're going to have this washer that goes onto the firing pin. Then this spring, which of course interacts with this portion of the bolt. All right, and this is your bolt lock. Of course, that locks into the barrel. And then, of course, these, I don't have you can see the little pin right there for that. I'll just drive it back up through the bottom. But you have your extractor and extractor spring. But that's basically how this is going to go back together. It's pretty simple. You know, there's other systems out there that are a little bit more complicated. For the most part, you know, that's kind of going to be where we're at as far as diagnosing a failure to fire issue. Now, if you're having a failure to eject or failure to feed, there's other things going on there. Like I said, if y'all are having problems with your Mavericks, just shoot me an email. My email is the gun psychiatrist at gmail.com. So it's thegunpsychiatrist@gmail.com. You guys shoot me an email there, and I'll answer any of your questions or do the best. I might not have a gun to help you, but I definitely go through the process. So I'm gonna get this thing back together. I hope that was informative and helpful. Like I said, I probably would contact Mossberg and talk to someone in their tech tech support department and or get one of their gunsmiths and get an actual measurement, or have them pull it off the engineering sheet, what the actual acceptable measurement range is. We determine, 77.9, you're good. 77.03, you're still good. You're still getting protrusion, but I'd like to see at least 1 mil of protrusion. I think if you go over that 1 mil protrusion, you're gonna risk actually busting your firing primers. You're gonna risk busting through those primers. Then you're gonna really have some problems. But some guns do it. Guns that are at a headspace, you could have a headspace issue. It's hard to say without putting gauges in your specific gun, but I've seen guns that, are out of headspace from the manufacturer. It just happens. Some slip through the cracks and they slip through test fire, and they end up, busting a firing pin because the primer pocket blew back and just burn off the tips of the firing pin. So anyways, I hope that was helpful and informative. Any questions, comments, give me a shout. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.